Guys, so welcome to another exciting video from Pycoders Academy, Python focus video from Pycoders Academy with me, Faisal from Pycoders Academy. Okay, so in our previous video, we looked at the button widget. So we said the button widget is the widget to let's say do the clicking functions of some apps and so on. And we looked at some options which we can use in the button widget, and we did a mini project on the button widget. Okay, so in today's video we'll be looking at the entry widget. So the entry widget is actually a widget used in accepting input from the user. So like the input function in Python, the entry does the same way. So that's what we'll be doing in this video, and we will be modifying our previous video using the entry widget to make it lively. Okay, so stay okay, so sit tight and just watch this video. Back again to this section. Okay, so today we'll be looking at the entry as I already said. So we'll be starting with let's say the options. So we'll be starting with these parameters as we did for the button widget. Okay, so you can see we have the BG here, so we already used the BG in the button widget. So let me start with the entry widget a bit. So just import our Tkinter. Okay, now just say from Tkinter import, let's say star, to be able to use all the, let's say, models inside the Tkinter. So from Tkinter import. Okay, so import Tkinter. Okay, now we will use the app as our app name. So app is equal to, let me say, tk. Okay, sorry, it should be caps. Okay, now we just use the app.main loop. Say main loop. Okay, so we are just done with let's say opening and closing our app. So we start with the entry. So we just do the same for the as we did in the button. So we just do creating a variable and passing the entry inside. So entry. Now you pass our app as our, let's say, parent or master. So we just do app, then okay, sorry, app. Okay, so now we will be following our parameters in the at the top there. So we have the BG, we have the FG, and so on. So start with the BG. So the BG is the background. So let's say we want to change the background color. Okay, so here I'll first start with the text parameter. So the text parameter actually, let's see. Okay, let me ignore the text for now. So we start with the BG parameter. So the BG parameter is the background parameter. So let's say I want to change the background from, let's say, a color to another color. So let's say I want to make it let me say blue instead of, let's say, the normal white. So I'll just do blue here. Okay, then what I'll do again is the foreground. So the foreground is actually the color of the text we will be typing in. So that's the foreground. Then the background is the, let's say, the background of the entry. So the foreground will be equal to, okay, so I'll do it white here. Okay, so now I'm done with these two parameters, the background and the foreground. Okay, so let me actually pack it in. Okay, let me add a width so that can, let's say, specify some width. So width is equal to, let me give it a, let's say, 60 pixels. Okay, so now I'll just use the place. So entry dot place. Okay, now I'll specify a geometry up there so that we know the size of, let's say, our app, so that we can be able to use it. Okay, so now I'll just do, okay, so app dot geometry Okay, now I'll pass a 600 by 400 here. So 600 by 400. Okay, now I'll make the x will equal to, let's say, 3. Okay, I'll do it at 150. Then the y should be a 400 or 200. Okay, 200 would be better. Okay, now let me run this code and see. Okay, so I'm still in the Tkinter 2. Yeah. Okay, so yeah, so here. Okay, so you have this. So as you can see, I have a blue. Okay, let me quit this. Okay, as you can see, I have a blue background. Then I have a small, let's say, space. Let's say a rectangular space with a length of 60 pixels and a background of let's say blue color. Then I will try to see how the foreground is working. So I'll just start typing. Okay, you can see it turning into white. So the foreground we change it to white, so as we have here the white here, then the background, which is the blue here, and the width is 60%, 60 pixels, sorry. So we are done with let's say 3 parameters. We move on to the next parameter, which is the text variable. Okay, so in the button widget and the label widget, we're using the text to, let's say, store a text for the label or for the button. But in this widget, we can't store a text. We even if we can give it a default, let's say we don't want a default to be placed in there, we want to accept input. So first you have to know text variable. So the text variable actually contains your input the user will type. So I'll just use it here. So it's another option in the widget, so the entry widget. So I'll just pass the variable text variable. So this is actually just a variable. Now okay, so I've passed the text variable as an option here. Now what I have to do here is just that I have to just create a variable. So let's say a variable called input or entry get. So entry, let's say underscore get. Now this entry get actually needs let's say it actually needs a way, let's say a data type. So let's say I don't know the data type. I don't know what the user will type. Maybe I don't know what the user will type, or maybe I know what the user will type. So I'll just pass a data type here. So the data types we have in Tkinter GUIs are, let's say, the string var, the int var, and let's say the double var. Okay, so when we say the string var, it means the string, let's say, variable. So let's say the data type is a string. Then when we have the int var, we are saying the data type is an int. Then we have the double var, we say the let's say the data type is a double. So that's a way of saying float. Okay, so we will start with, since we are using the string var for now, we start with the string var, and maybe in our subsequent videos we will look at the int var and so on. So let's start with the string var. So you just do string. Okay, so it starts with the capital S. Okay, then string, then the capital VAR. Okay, so that's the string var. Then you bring your parentheses. Okay, so this is how to write. Okay, so it should be G here. Okay, so this is how to write your string var. So here we are saying that what we are setting should be a string. So that's what we are saying. So what we are setting should be a string. Okay, so now we pass the text variable here. So entry underscore get. Okay, so simple. Now we have this. Okay, so let's see how we can, let's say, get our input from the user once the user type in something. So we just do, let me say I want to store it in let's say user underscore typed. Okay, now just do entry underscore get, sorry, underscore get. dot. So I'll just do dot, then I'll use a get method. So get, to get the let's say the input from the user. So I've first stored the input inside the text variable. Now I'm getting it from the text variable. So that's what we are doing here. So I'll quickly just print it so that we will see the input. So user typed. Okay, so let me just run this code and see. So I'll type this. Okay, so we have to do something to actually get this. So let me quickly use a button here. So okay, so I'll quickly use a button here. So let me say button click is equal to, I'll say button, then I'll say up. Okay, I'll quickly do a text here, click. Okay, click. Okay, so simple. Now I'll pass a command which we can get our let's say our variable. So let me say get input. Okay, so this our command that I'll just do def get input. Okay, get okay, now I'll just do let's say user that. Okay, I'll just do this control V. Now I'll just print. Okay, so sorry. Okay, so let me use this. Okay, so we are actually done here. So let me place this. So button dot place. Okay, now I'll just do a x150. Okay, let me do a 200 here. Then y should be, let's say, a 300. Okay, now let's quickly run this code and see. Okay, so let me just type in something here. So click. Okay, so let's click. Okay, so as you can see, I have what I typed here. So let me go again. Okay, so let me click. Okay, now let's click. Okay, so it's getting it here. I'll also change this to, let's say, mine. Okay, so I'll click, getting it there. I'll change this to let's say Python. Okay, now I'll click. Okay, so I'm getting it here. Okay, so that's what we are using the entry for. So we are just accepting input from the user. Now after accepting the input, we just, let's say, work with the input. Okay, so we'll be using this. So okay, let me treat the last two options. So these are, so we've treated this. Now I'll treat the last two, which is the state and show. Okay, the state actually tells, let's say, the user if, let's say, it's disabled or not. So let's say I want to just remove the user typability of the entry. I will just use the state to, let's say, disable it, so the user can't type on it. So I will just do it here. So let me pass something like state, or yeah, state is, so it should be a capital disabled. Okay, now let's run this code and see. So now our entry is disabled. So you can see when I use the click, I can't type in anything because it's disabled. So let's say you want to make your entry disabled, you just use the disabled value of the state parameter. So simple. Now quickly move on to the state or show. So when you use the show, it means, let's say you want to change your entry. So let's say I'll change my entry to star for a password. So let's say I'm getting a password, so I'll just change this to star. So that's what I want to show. So for every letter I want to show star. So let me run this code again. Okay, so let me start typing something. Okay, so you can see I'm typing letters here, but still I'm getting uh, an X. So when you want to create a password, let's say a password fraud, you can use this to let's say actually do your password feature. Okay, to let's say modify it in our project. So let's say I have the project I did, let's say before this video. So let me clear this. Okay, now let me remove the comments here. Okay, so then I'll move this. Okay, then the upper one will go off. Okay, so now we quickly create our entry back again. So here we just do the entry here. So entry is equal to entry. Okay, now pass the parent class. Okay, now we have the app as the parent class. Then now we just create a text variable to accept our text. So text variable. Okay, so I'll just use a variable, let's say user get or input type or something. So let me just try and do something here. So user underscore get is equal to, so we are using, let's say, okay, so what we want to do is that we want to accept a color from the user. So accepting a color, like, it's just a string, so we just do string var. Okay, now bring our parentheses. Now just do text variable equals the user underscore get. Okay, so we have a variable, let's say, accepting our input. So simple. We just specify a width here, so I'll give it a 60 pixels here. Okay, so simple. Now let's look at how to place it. So just do entry. Okay, so entry dot place, okay, so in our geometry we pass the x as let's say 400 by 400. So I'll give it let's say give it 80 here. Okay, then I'll pass the vertical as, so that's the y, so I'll pass the y as let me see, 150. Okay, yeah, 150. Now it should be at the top, so let's say a 50 here. Okay, so I have a 50 here. Now instead of, let's say, giving me random values, I'll just ignore this list here. Okay, so I'll ignore this list here. I'll also ignore the random here. Okay, now I'll just use the get parameter or the get method of the string var to get my value. So let's say I'll just do entry, or we stored it as user get. Okay, so user underscore get dot get. Okay, now I'll store it as, let's say, entry get. Okay, so simple. Now I'll just pass it here. So entry get, so entry underscore get. Okay, now I also pass it here. So entry as underscore get. Okay, now I also pass it here. Oh no, you have to change this completely. So entry underscore get. Okay, so let's roll back to, let's say, the running of our program. So let me actually go to the top and clear this random here. So let's run this code. So as you can see, okay, 60 is a bit too wide, so let me just give it a 40 here. Okay, so a 40. Now let's run this code again. Okay, it's okay now. So I'll just do let's say yellow. Okay, so first I'm typing yellow, then I'm just say change. Okay, so you can see it has changed. So the label has changed. So color is yellow. So the label has changed, the background has changed, and the button too has changed. So everything is working. I also pass something like let's say orange. Okay, so color orange. So you can see the color is orange. You can see I'm getting orange at the bottom here. Then the color has also changed, and the button has also changed. So that's how you can use the entry widget to, let's say, uh, do your Tkinter GUIs. So it's pretty simple. Just do it. You can do it. Yeah. So you can just establish a complex project using the small entry widget to make your, let's say, project look good. So I just use the label, I just use the button and the entry in combination to get this small project. Okay, so you can make this project a very big one. So yeah, so that's that for today. You just start with the menu widget in our next video. Okay, so stay tight, just subscribe to this video, like